that. OBS. Oh, I love you, I hate you, OBS. Wow, I can't believe that whole thing had no audio. Let's start again. Hey everyone, let's start again. I'm drinking solo. Oh well. Zero sugar. That means it's good for me, right? Okay, we're back. Yes. Sorry about that, folks. OBS, turn my audio off. I should have checked. I didn't look. What can I tell you? So, I'll do the intro again. I've been building TinyPICOs all day, and I'm pooped. And instead of cleaning them, I decided to do something else. So, an impromptu stream. So there you go. How unexciting is that? But I have a purpose. It's actually something I'm going to do on the stream. I'm doing it anyway, but I thought I could do it on the stream. It could be fun. Or not. I don't know. New reports show a massive correlation between premature death and sugarless drinks. Really? Don't tell me that. Okay. And old age? Is that in there somewhere too? Hey J-Man. Hey Ben, I owe you some question answers. I know, one-liners. I'll do it. I'll do it this weekend. I just haven't had time. Been busy. So, what was I going to say? Yes, so I've been thinking all day while I've been building all these TinyPICOs. Hey, HMX, it is so late for me. What time is it there? I mean, it's afternoon for me. I generally don't ever stream at this time. But the Aussies get to join. Yay! Pepsi Max. I used to drink Pepsi Max back when I was a young'un. Not anymore. Diet Coke. Caffeine-free Diet Coke sometimes. Oh, 11:30. Wow. That's late. Go to bed. Go to bed. Not going to be anything exciting here. Or maybe there will be. I don't know. Hey, Jonathan. So, while I was building the TinyPICOs today, a lot of TinyPICOs today, I think I built 120 TinyPICOs today. Hey, David. Hey, Paul. Look into getting the Helicon monitor stream audio. Well, I can monitor it in OBS because it shows me. I can see right here whether the audio is working or not, but I didn't look. And OBS, for some reason, had chosen no audio source, that's all. So, yeah, I should have just looked. I should have seen that it was pinging back and forwards. Hey, Henry. Oh, God, 1:25 a.m. I know, this is a weird time. Weird time to stream. I'm doing it more for me than for you guys. I mean, if you want to stick around, that's okay. Ice cold water is sugarless. Sure. It's also got no taste. High sugar of any kind temporarily damages the small hairs in your arteries and causes calcification of your arteries, especially at junction points. Okay, that's depressing. YTFP. Hi, by the way. 7:30 a.m. Where are you, Squeakers 09? Squeakers 09, why are you repeating yourself? 7:30 a.m. Where is that? Oh, that'll be somewhere in the UK, Europe somewhere. See you, Paul. Catch you later. I know, weird stream time. Sorry, folks. So, anyway, I was thinking while I was building my TinyPICOs today that... Let me switch cameras. I'm not overly happy with the way the Plus came out. I mean, I'm happy with the way it came out because it came out exactly like it was supposed to. But just in general... Let's see if we can focus the camera a bit. Here we go. Just in general, I don't know. I'm a bit underwhelmed. Hey, Crazy Roops. Oh, gotta go to work at 7:30 in the morning. Or is it a long commute? I hope it's just a long commute. Watching Arduino videos, how come you don't include coding to your stuff? A lot of things I do include coding, and some things, I don't know, some things I just do for myself. I mean, a lot of my projects have code that I release on Paxter or in my GitHub. But if I'm just tinkering, some things I don't. Why is it called the Plus? It would look good in red. It might look good in red. I don't know. I got my my new Pro S2 boards are coming in red. I made these ones white just because I didn't want... Well, I know the antennas are different, but I wanted to be able to easily find it in a pile of TinyPICOs. It's not going to stay white. Don't have much space on the Pro compared to the P3. Who? What? The Pro? The Plus? The Pro? What are we talking about? You're talking about this? It's exactly the same. Well, just a bit of extra space here because of the antenna. Otherwise, it's identical at the moment, but I've changed it. github.com/unexpectedmaker. But what are you looking for? What type of things? I mean, things I never posted code for were like all my color sensor videos I made, because there wasn't code that was usable to anyone else. It was just testing code for me to see whether it worked or not, what I could get out of it. But most of my other projects, code is there. Hey, Colin. Hey, Pratik. Yeah, the white one. It just looks so empty. Okay, but it's exactly the same, though. It's exactly the same, except for the bottom area here, where I stuck a button on. It does look empty. It doesn't look very nice, the contrast on it. But anyway, but that's not what I don't like about it. Wish they made clear PCBs. Well, yeah, Osh Park are doing, well, it's kind of clear. What do they call it? Midnight something? When's the USB-C version coming out? Well, that's one of the things I would really like to do, but I can't fit it on this footprint. I cannot get a USB-C on here and still have JST on the bottom. Trust me, I want to. So my Pro S2's got USB-C, but that's because it's a single-sided board. Maybe it's just the white PC making it look empty. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. So let's talk about what I don't like about this board. And I shouldn't say what I don't like. As I said, I'm happy with it, but I want to do more. I'm not happy with how much plus the plus is. The logo in gold looks nice. It does look nice, but JLC PCB, as you might be able to see, have an issue with getting the solder mask in between the Enig when it's quite fine. So it actually looks quite bad. And it's random places over all the different boards I've got. I've got 11 boards. So the logo in Enig looks great, but I don't know if I'm going to do it. I don't know if it's going to turn out okay. They need to promise me that they look good, and I don't know if they will. Well, damn. It wasn't you I was thinking of about the coding. Okay, well, there you go. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I try to share as much code and hardware as I can. I'm definitely into open source. But there are just some things I just won't release code for if it's just hacky stuff I'm doing on a video or for myself. Someone asked, what is the plus? Hang on, what was the question? What is plus about it? No? What was it? Is that reset button 4.8 by 2.6? No, I think it's smaller. It's 3.2 by 2 point something. It's tiny. And I don't think you're going to be able to click it when there's a header pin soldered in there. A new version of USB-C that meshes Firewire. That meshes Firewire? Aren't you just talking about USB 4? Firewire, that died a long time ago. I think you're talking about Thunderbolt. USB-C already does Thunderbolt. I mean, Apple's got Thunderbolt USB-C and all of their stuff. But USB 4, but people can choose to implement USB-C, USB 3, or 3.1 or 3.2 without Thunderbolt if they don't want to. But USB 4 is with Thunderbolt, and so it'll be always has Thunderbolt. Is it a 1.6mm PC? It looks thicker from here. No, it's actually a 1. It's a 1, just like this one is, but it is slightly thicker. It's kind of weird. Look at it. I don't know why, but it's definitely I ordered 1mm. It's not 1.2, unless I accidentally made I ticked 1.2, but I don't think so. It doesn't matter. It's only a prototype. Firewire isn't dead. No, Firewire is dead. Dead and buried. I think YTFP was talking about Thunderbolt. I think. I don't know. We'll wait to see what YTFP says. Okay, someone asked about what it is. So the Plus board was really just it was a couple of things. I wanted to try moving away from the ProAnt antenna because it's got some manufacturing issues. Yeah, it's still 4 layers. It's identical board. They're identical, right? It's just got a different antenna, which means the matching network is now on the side rather than underneath, which is a manufacturing problem for me because when I'm reflowing the boards and if any of the 3 passives underneath on the matching network, they shift, then I have to take the antenna off sometimes to fix them. And it's just a pain in the ass, right? Excuse my language. Yes, bonus live streams. Hello, Chris. I was going to tell you I was going to do one, but then I wasn't sure. So I didn't. Anyway, they're still trying to push that abomination. It was good back when USB ran at 12 megabyte. Firewire was great. Hello, Christian. Firewire was actually awesome. It was a really good standard, but no one picked it up except for Apple. Anyway, that's a shame. So yeah, the Plus board was really about me moving away from the Pro-Ant antenna, trying out the Fractus antenna, which is obviously, it's much smaller. It's not as delicate, so it won't bend. I don't have to worry about shipping as much. I don't have to print all of these little 3D printed holders to protect the antenna during shipping, which takes time and effort and blah, 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 blah. I think production boards should be blue. The production boards. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Charles, I don't know about blue. I might just stick with black with them. I don't know. I think, yeah, I haven't decided. Try adding female antenna. What is a female antenna? Antennas aren't gender. They're not male or female. What do you mean? You're talking about a UFL connector, an external antenna? Yeah, I don't want to put a UFL connector on. Yeah, that's... Sony has a firewall supported digital light cameras? Yeah, okay. Just the pin. What do you mean just the pin? The pin for what? The antenna pin. If I put an antenna pin on this board, it's going to completely change the characteristics of the board. And if you then connect anything to it, it's going to completely change the characteristics of the matching network. So it needs to have some type of switch, whether it's a digital RF switch, which are, $3 each, and a little IC that takes a whole bunch of extra passives, or whether it's a resistor that you need to remove. I can't expect people to move 0402 components to be able to switch between an internal or external antenna. What about a large ceramic antennas? So ceramic, well, what do I want a large antenna for? So ceramic antennas are, this is not a chip antenna, this is not a ceramic antenna. This is it's still a 3D antenna inside this. That's why it's so expensive. It's a layered PCB with a 3D antenna built inside this. Chip antennas are way inferior, as are ceramic antennas, and they all have requirements for how you place them on the board. Like if you would have seen originally with my TinyPICO, I was playing with the rain-sun antenna, and the rain-sun antenna, like I didn't, it was just, yeah, it had to sit perpendicular on the board to the ground plane. Like you couldn't, like I know people do, they stick them this way. They're just inefficient. Like even if with a matching network, you still can't get them to run efficiently because they're completely out of spec of how they're designed to be used. Anyway, I'm happy with this antenna, but what I'm not happy with is having it so close to the edge. I put it fairly close to the edge of the board. Now I know this is on an angle, this shifted. It actually reflowed straight, right? So if you would have caught my stream on Wednesday when I built it, it was actually straight when I reflowed it. But then because I had to put the RAM on second because I've only got a single board. When I turned it over and put the RAM on and put it in the oven to reflow, it shifted it, right? Because it was sitting on it. And so I must have knocked it or moved it or something. Obviously, when I'm actually in production of these boards, the RAM goes on first, and the RAM goes on with high temp paste, and then the top is done. So it'd be the other way around, and this antenna would sit straight. But yeah, I don't like how close I have it to the edge. And I'm a bit worried about how close I have it to this header pin. Hey, Bolly. I think it's possibly a little close. I think people might have some trouble soldering header pins on. I've seen some pretty nasty soldering jobs in my time, and people using really massive soldering tips. So I'd like to move it further away, which means making the board a little bit longer. Another thing I want to do, which is something that's really annoying for me, can you get a smaller RAM chip? No, you can't. Can't get any smaller RAM than this, unfortunately. RAM takes space. It's really frustrating. I would gladly get smaller RAM, even if I had to pay extra for it. Hey, Scott. Hey, Kren6977. Yes, it is a surprise. It's an unexpected stream. That is a cakewalk compared to some boards I've seen. I have several FireWire external closures. I've got some FireWire devices too on my shelf, but I don't have a active Mac anymore that has FireWire, so that's okay. Yes, might have been USB 4 with Thunderbolt, probably brain, mouth failure, almost midnight. All good, mate, all good. So, yeah, another thing that's a bit annoying is that the USB hangs slightly, ever so slightly over the edge. Now, my original design of the board, it was actually even further. Do I have a really old board here? Let me see if I've got an old board in front of me. Not really. I'm talking about like a really original prototype. Probably not. That's okay. So the board, see here, is 6 out. It's really annoying because makes it really hard to clean this edge of the board when I'm cleaning them. So on this, I did move it back a little bit. I thought it moved it back enough that it didn't hang over the edge, but it does slightly. Can you see that? Ever so slightly over the edge. So I want to pull it back a little bit more, but I can't. I've got no room without removing everything. So I'm going to bring the board. I'm going to make the board a little bit longer. So I'm going to make it just a little bit longer here, so the USB is flush, so they're easier to clean, because cleaning is really important, or easy to clean is important. But I also need to make the board a little bit longer to give more space for the antenna, just give it more clearance. And by making it a little bit longer, which is fine, because it's still going to be pin compatible, it doesn't have to be exactly the same length as the TinyPICO, so long as it's still pin compatible, right? Oops, not even on camera. I have looked at the Molex antennas, and the Molex antennas are quite nice, but I'm going to have, if I put one of their 3D tower antennas on this board, I'm going to have the same problems I've got with these antennas. Someone's going to knock it off, right? They're just not, they're not durable. It's great for a product that's inside an enclosure, but they're not great for a board that people are handling with their hands, and they're grabbing it and they're plugging it in and out and they're pulling it. I mean, I've had people rip off the antenna, pulling their board out of a breadboard. I've had people rip off the USB, pulling it out of a breadboard. Like, you know what I mean? Like the cable got stuck, and like, I have to think about things like that now. I didn't when I was first putting this together, because I really didn't think it was going to have much of an impact in the marketplace. But, you know, the more boards that are out there, the more chance, the percentage of them that get broken is the same, but the more boards means that percentage means a larger number of people. So, you know, it never occurred to me, could also go, no, I don't want to go for a smaller chip. I just mentioned that you came in late. I don't want a chip antenna. They're inferior, right? These are still both 3D antennas. A chip antenna is a 2D antenna. So I'm already going to lose 30% of my Wi-Fi quality by putting a chip antenna on, even if it's perfectly matched. A PCB antenna is even worse. Chelsea would complain that your boards were less than 20. They always complain about how small my boards are for V-scoring. Absolutely. But I have an arrangement with them. And yeah, it's fine. So, as I said, it doesn't have to be the same length, right? I'm happy with this antenna. I want to use this antenna. It's a great antenna. It's only a little bit lower efficiency than the Pro Ant. Could you swap the antenna in the matching network so that the matching network is close to the header? No. That would make the trace going to the matching network way too long, and way too susceptible to noise going along the edge here. It needs to be as short as possible. Like even this here is longer than I want. It's shorter than what this one was, but it's still longer than I want. No, the longer the hey Yuri, the longer the NLA trace to the matching network, the worse the performance is going to be. Also, what you're talking about is building an antenna loop in, right? You're talking about having it come out, come around here, and then loop back on the antenna. That's just asking for trouble. Like, it's got to be as straight a line as possible. There are some things that you can use the matching network to fix, like in my case, the length of my trace. Right, the matching network is part of the matching network is designed to offset the fact that it's a fairly long trace and it's going past some passives that you really wouldn't want to do. But to elongate it even further, yeah, that would be. Yeah. But I don't need to do that. Like again, it's not gonna. Because let me finish. I haven't finished. Don't recall them complaining in the past, but they did with my recent. Right. So just what that is in the past they've always charged their Asian customers for V-scoring. V-scoring's never been free for Asian customers, right? It's always been free for Westerners, for anyone outside of Asia. But if the board was big enough, even for the Asian customers, they'll let it go through. But if the boards are too small, it's really hard for them to V-score. So in Asia, they used to charge For us, they didn't, and about a month ago or a month and a half ago, they started charging us as well the same price, the extra fee, for V-scoring. Or they'd come back and complain and say, hey, can you change? Hey, James, can you change the design? Can you make it bigger, right? The first couple of times they tried to charge me for V-scoring, I hit the roof. They explained to me why they're charging now and that they never used to, but they always do with their customers. And I said, well, you know, I built so many of these and you've never charged me before. Why are you charging me now? You know, if it was hard for you to do before, you should have charged me before. You've been doing it now for, you know, thousands of boards. And so they said, okay, no worries. And so I've had no problems ever since. So that's the deal with their V-scoring and the sizing. It's hard for them to V-score it when it's so small. And let me tell you, the accuracy of the V-scoring is not so great when the boards are so small. So, before we try to solve the antenna, there's other things that I'm thinking that, you know, like, why am I, like, okay, I put TX and RX, which is great, and I stuck IO0, because those three are kind of important for some people, even though, because I get, the most often email question I get from people is, I can't see where you've exposed the UARTs. I need to be able to use UARTs, and you've got no UARTs exposed. Why did you do that, right? And my response to them is you don't need to have UARTs exposed because on an ESP32, any pins can be UART. Not only can any pins be UART, but they can be hardware UART, not software UART. Full hardware UART. Like in MicroPython, I can say, and I've been doing this for the last week for a project and maybe for a video that I want to do, but for a project to do with my test jigs, I can just in MicroPython say, create a UART using pin 21 and 22, 21 RX, 22 TX, and it gives me back access to a UART, and it's a hardware UART on 21 and 22, even though they're the I2C pins. You can do the same in the IDF. Now, I don't know how easy it is to do in the Espressive, in Arduino land, but Arduino IDE is just a wrapper for IDF. So I've never tried creating a custom UART in Arduino land, but it's the same hardware, so it's the same capabilities. I mean, MicroPython's just a wrapper for IDF as well. So you don't need UARTs exposed, because any pins can be UART on the TinyPICO. And I've written that to about 20 people in the last 2 weeks. Arduino IDE is what? That's nice. Can you do more than one UART at once? How many? That's interesting. I think you can do 2. I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3. It might just be 2. I think you can do 2. Yeah, in IDF it's super simple. You just create a UART reference to and pick the pins you want. And it's a full hardware. Arduino hardware serial, my serial 1. Right, but telling it which pins. Can you pass it the pins, J-Man? Because my serial 1, like that, might just use the RX and TX pins, which are the default UART. You can set UART in IDF you can. Oh, you can set 2 UARTs. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I thought it was 2. I'm pretty sure that's the hardware limitation is 2 hardware. And I think the S2 has got 3. SP32S2 has got 3 UARTs. Anyway, so that's why I didn't expose it. But you know what? I did in this case on the plus board. I put it on there because it seems to confuse a lot of people. It also means that technically you can program the board now via an external programmer without using the USB or the CP2104 if you don't want to. And because RX and TX are on the RX and TX pins, it's the default pins that you would normally program with. Does that make sense? So that's why I exposed those 2. Hey John, the hardware has 3 internally, but 1 is reserved for the programming interface. Sure it's 3? Okay, interesting. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was 3 or 2. Are we sure? Okay, yeah, it could be. I'm sure John knows, because John knows everything. So that's why I broke those out. 0, 1, and 2. Like all proof rules, the pins for the UARTs can be logically mapped to any of the available pins in the SP2. Okay, well there you go. Thank you. See? 3 UARTs. You guys are awesome. Anyway. So that's why I exposed those 2. And obviously, pin 0 turns out to be an important pin. Pretty much, well, it's an extra GPIO once the board boots. Hey, Maxine R&D. Once everything's booted, it's an extra GPIO, right? Which is great. And technically so is RX and TX, because they're just GPIOs. So if you don't need access to your USB, once the board's booted, you could technically use those as IOs as well. No, you're awesome. You're all awesome. Collectively, you're way awesome, more awesome than me. Wow, that doesn't even make any sense. But what was I saying? But there's another pin I want to break out. At least one more pin I want to break out. But I've got no room, right? So if I make the board a little bit longer, like, not a lot, right? A little bit. Enough to get another pin in here, because it's close, like, you know what I mean? Then, what's the extra pin I want to add? Well, it's a real pain in the ass pin, excuse my language, because the pin comes from here. All the way over here. And it's a nightmare. And it's a user request pin. It's not for an IO. I don't even know how useful it's going to be for people. Any plans in the future for a smaller board ditching USB and USB chip? No, because that's what my Nano was originally. But makes it very hard to use. You know, like it makes it, yeah, like having to plug an external programmer in to program it. Yeah, it's a different type of product. Right? Yes, I have thought about it. But I don't think many people will find it useful. I think it's going to be a lot of effort for me to do and to make for very few people that will find it useful. And I'll explain why. So my original Nano board that does everyone know about my original Nano? Wow, this is not what I was going to do on my stream today. I was actually going to do eagle work on my stream, and I still will. My original Nano, I pulled it out recently. Looks like you could move the antenna down, move the components below it to the left. No, I can't. James? No, because there's requirements on how the antenna works. I can't just plonk the antenna any place I want to on the board, because that's not how matching antennas work. They all have requirements on where they need to sit against the ground plane, perpendicular or parallel, and where the optimum edge is on the board for your antenna to sit. So, can't do that. Well, I can, just like there are boards out there that have a ceramic antenna this way, even though it's completely against what the specifications are. And what you get is a board that has inferior Wi-Fi. And there is just no way I want to release a board that's got crap Wi-Fi. That's why I spent so long and so much time and paid to get the matching network done perfectly to make this the best Wi-Fi it can be. And I'm going to continue doing that. Because to me it's important. Like, you know, I've played with plenty of boards that got a crap Wi-Fi, and it's just frustrating. Can we expect an ESP32S board? Yes. Have you not seen my I've already showcased my S2 board. Bolly? Yeah, the TinyPICO Nano stamp. Those were the days. So this is my TinyPICO Nano. Now, admittedly, it's a module, so it doesn't have header pins, because to add header pins would make the board twice as big. Defeats the purpose, right? So this has RAM on top. It's got everything. It doesn't have the APA. It's got the LDO, charge circuitry, everything else. It is basically that, but without the USB. And the headers, the over here, there's little tiny headers, right, for 1.27mm pitch pins, or they're castellated edges, and they were for an external programmer, which is, if I can find it, ooh, just found another one with a bent antenna. Great. Snap the antenna off. Anyway, and so I made a programmer for it. It depends on how far you need the... No, it's not even about the... It's not about how far you need the Wi-Fi to go. When you don't have a perfectly tuned antenna, what you get is reflection on the antenna line, which can do several things. One or all of the following. It could make your ESP32 run way hotter than it should be. Hey, and better hobbyist. It could chew your battery 2 to 5 times faster, right? It can generate heat just in general on the board, and can generate noise. right? It's not just about is my Wi-Fi good or bad. There are repercussions for having bad Wi-Fi. And the repercussions are things that people don't realize, and they're not necessarily things that people can look at and see. You know, why is my Pico chip running 10 degrees hotter than it should be? Well, probably because you got bad match network and you got reflection coming back, and it's affecting, you know, your power. You're getting power feedback on your antenna trace. Anyway, there are a lot of reasons why. So I built this programmer. So this is the USB part that goes for this, and the idea was you could stick this on a board, solder on a board like a module, and put your USB on, or do whatever you want to do, or you could use something like this and you could pogo it, and it works really well. You pogo it with a USB in there, and you can program the board, and it worked great. The problem is, especially when you're talking about development boards, it's fine for commercial, but for development boards, I'm plugging this into something, right, and I'm connecting things to it. And the best feature I have is the fact that my USB is always connected and I can see output. I can see a log. I can see serial. I can see what the board's doing, right? What about like if you're in MicroPython, you're in the REPL? And I'm not talking about like a web REPL or anything. So like how do I work on this board while I'm holding this on just so I can see my serial output? Like I've got one hand left. It's okay, Bolly. I'll show it again later, like on the stream. Yeah, so it shipped from JLC PCB yesterday, and I'll have them either Sunday or Monday. So the whole having a disconnected programmer just didn't make any sense for me. Like, I can't think of many reasons why I'd want a board that plugged into a breadboard, for instance, that didn't allow me to actually connect output where I could use my hands, keep them free. Yeah? Which is one of the reasons why I abandoned this. The other one was that I don't think this is an overly useful product for a lot of people. And it's quite expensive to make, right? But my new Nano, we'll talk about the new Nano later. Anyway, so, God, you've all sidetracked me. Yes, DHL delivers to me on a Sunday. They do it quite often, actually, and it's great. RF is total black magic, and I know very little about it, let me tell you. And I was at an electronics show yesterday, and I saw a Roden Schwartz, the nicest vector network analyzer I've ever seen in my life, and it was half price. And oh my god! Thanks, Vindy, software that wants to backfill my electronic knowledge to eventually design custom pieces. How would you suggest I begin? Ah, wow. Well, firstly, thank you for the super chat. It's very generous of you. Custom PCBs for ESP32. The easiest way is to go grab schematics and PCB layouts from SparkFun and Adafruit, honestly, for their like Hazard 32 and for the ESP32 thing, and study their schematics, study their designs. Wemos released their schematics, I think. They don't release their board designs. Ah, yes, Adam was with me yesterday at the show. That scope, not the scope, the VNA. The scope was amazing. The scope was half price, and that was $10,000, and that was nuts. The VNA was, yeah, that was also half price. That was $10,000. $10,000 for VNA, and let me tell you, there's no way I'm going to buy one. No one, because I just $10,000, and I don't even know how to use it. But oh my god, it was sexy. So that's what I would do, Vindy. I'd go and break apart other people's schematics, see what they do, read lots of data sheets. Like in terms of just designing custom PCBs, well, you know, start designing. But if you're talking about ESP32 specifically, like if you want to put a room module on there, whatever else, just look at what other people are doing. Grab their boards. I mean, all my stuff's open source. I've got ESP32 room boards on GitHub. My TinyPICO is open source. Just go and have a look at the schematics and learn. Honestly, that's what I did. I had a LCSC order track to Sydney on Monday. Didn't make it here to Victoria by the weekend. How was it shipped, though? Shipped by who? Get an educational license for Eagle. Yeah. Eagle's free. Yeah, the educational license is free. And you can open 2-layer boards with them, right? So you're not going to be able to open TinyPICO with it because it's a 4-layer board, unfortunately. But all of Adafruit's boards are 2 layers. I've got some other ESP32 room stuff on my GitHub that's 2 layers. Yeah, that's what you want to do. to study all the schematics and read the data sheets. Look at so all the data sheets for the ESP32 chips have implementation schematics on there as well. And you can even get the schematics. You can't get the Eagle files. There's no Eagle, but I don't know what custom software that Espressif use, but they release their schematics for their development boards as well. Sipping my coffee. Hopefully it will kick in soon. Oh, coffee. Yum. Educational does 4 layers. Oh, you're not talking about the free version. You're talking about the educational version. Sorry, I apologize. Right. The free version does 2 layers. So there's an educational version, just a cheaper version of the standard, is it? What about electrical fundamentals? Any good resources? Oh, the internet. YouTube. I mean, I'm really lacking in my fundamentals as well, like the analog side. Just YouTube. You know, stacks of channels. Have a look at all the channels that I'm sub to. There's stacks of electronics channels there. And just watch stacks of stuff. And read stuff. Like that's it. That's what I did. I've had no formal training. It's free for 24, 36 months. Wow. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, thanks guys. I mean, I pay for a standard license. I'm actually thinking of going for a full license so I can go 6 layers. I want to build a 6-layer board. It's a lot of money just to build a 6-layer board, and boy, do 6-layer PCBs cost a lot of money. Anyway, I'm getting back to this. So the thing I wanted to add to this, now it was a user request. I don't know how useful. I've never used it. I've got boards that have this, and I've never used it, which is why I never put it on my TinyPICO, right? But I had someone ask me the other day via email, hey, are you ever going to put this blah 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 on a future board? And I said, no, I don't think so, because I really can't find. Like, I know what it wants to do with it, but I really couldn't find a use for it. But I'm thinking I might do it on the Plus board. So ultimately, I want to make my Plus board more plus than this, right? Like right now, it's really, I mean, it's got the backfeed protection, and it's got a reset switch, and it's got 3 extra pins, and that's it, right? I feel like I need to do more. I feel like they're still too close. Like, why would I have 2 products? Does that make sense? Hey, John. Oh, my God. John is here. Another Melbourneite. Yeah, you can load the TinyPICO files fairly well into KiCad, whatever. But for me, I don't like. No, it's not. Well, actually, yeah, I don't really like the current state of KiCad. It's getting there. There's a couple of things that are coming that will fix the things I don't like about it. But it's not super stable on the Mac. It's great on Windows, but on the Mac, it's like a lot of work's being done on the Mac. It honestly has. They're doing their best. They've got a full-time guy working on Mac and making it better. But it underperforms on the Mac. It's just, yeah, it's not great. It's crashy and it's a bit slow, and I'm just not a fan of the separate netlist thing. But I'm not going to go into that now. Like, this is not a. I started with KiCad. Eagle just made way more sense to me, and so I stayed with Eagle. Put a GPIO expander on the Pico, please. Put an IO expander on the Pico? No. Where? Wow. Come on. Where am I supposed to put one? But you know I've got this, right? I'm gonna put it. I finally have all my parts I need now. Oh, I should have built one of these now. I finally have all the parts I need now to build my IO expander. So this is my IO expander board for the TinyPICO. So the TinyPICO plugs in here. And then it's got, oh God, I should have used the surface mount pins there. God, that's annoying. Anyway, and then you've got all the pins broken out again on each side. And then you've got 16 extra GPIO on each side, or 8 on each side. Are you in Melbourne, Cren? I knew you were in Australia. I didn't know you were in Melbourne. That's wicked. I didn't know that. And it's also got 2 more ADCs, 12-bit ADCs. So you've got A2, A3, and A0 and A1. And it's also got 3 of the IO directly from the TinyPICO, not the ones that are broken out, not the extra ones. Level shifted to 5 volts if you are using 5 volts in. And it's got a reset button. And it's got a SD card reader, micro SD card reader. So with a SPI connection to it, so you can do data logging stuff. So this is a full-on expander. It doesn't need an expander. It has plenty of I/O, just no space. Well, it's got... So there's very little else I can break out of this in terms of I/O. But that wasn't what I want to break out. What I wanted to break out was... And you can all tell me whether you think it's worth it or not. Someone asked me to add an enable pin. Hey, Majel. Hello, Ballarat. Add an enable pin for the LDO so they can pull it low and shut down the LDO and shut down all the power to the ESP32. So unlike Deep Sleep, which still has a current draw, they want to be able to just shut it off. And I totally get that. Like, that it makes sense, but I've got a stack of featherboards, right? I've got a stack of trinkets. I've got some, what's the one in between? The itsy bitsies. I've got stacks of boards with an enable pin, and I've never used it. I've never found it useful. Like, if I'm running a project off battery, to control an enable pin, I would need other circuitry. I'd need other stuff elsewhere. Yeah, it's like it's a narrow edge case. You'd need other hardware around it to be able to control the turning off and on, like with an RTC or something else. I really just don't know if it's worth sticking the enable pin on. But what I've done though, and hey, ahoy, Bagok 701. I like this extender so much, just 3D printer case, add your stuff, and it's a really nice package for Mesh Network project. Yeah, well that's why I stuck, it's got mounting holes on it, on the four corners, so you can either put it in a case or you can mount it onto something. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you've got jumpers on the back for setting the addresses. So if there are other I2C devices that you are using and you've got a conflict, you've got the ability to change those. And I've also broken out the alert pins and the interrupts as well. Oops. So I've got, where is it? So it's IB and IA. So you've got the two interrupts from the MCP 23017. And I've also got the, where is it? The alert pin over here from the ADC. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty featured board. I'm not sure how useful the level shifted pin is going to be, but for people that want to get 5 volt data, just got to be careful though, because you don't want to, if you're using any of these as 5 volts, you don't want to plug a 3.3 volt device into that same pin on the TinyPICO, right? It's the same pin, they're shared. It's not, you want to do one or the other. I have more input only GPIO than an EN pin, but I'm going for a true board or something. Yeah, like I feel like it's the EN is a weird use case, kind of, but I thought I'd see if I could route it. Because the problem is, and let me go to Eagle now and I'll show you, this is what I was going to do on my stream today, but it seems I got sidetracked. Why can't I close that window? Thank you. Okay, Eagle, where have you gone? So I started working on this change of design. And this is it here. Let's go to the top. So I'll quickly show you the schematic. What I did was I put a pull-up on the EN pin, which goes to the V-bus. So it's always pulled up, which means it's always on. And then I was going to break out this EN pin to a header pin. But here's the problem. This is the hole I've got myself into. I want to keep the board TinyPICO compatible. I want to keep the first 10 pins, top and bottom, the same, so you can use the same shield. So you can plug a TinyPICO Plus into this board, right? Which means I need to get the enable pin all the way from here, where it comes out, all the way down to either here. Well, I can't do it here, because I can't stick another pin there unless I make the board way bigger. So if I want to stick another pin on, the pin has to be either here, right, like this one, or this one, to keep it breadboard compatible. Just let them have a fairly sized pad, but a pad where, like, on the bottom of the board to solder onto. Yeah, I could, but that's still pretty, yeah, I guess. I could do that. I could probably have room on the back for that. Let's go to the bottom. That's interesting. said bottom. Hello, Mr. Bottom. So it's over here. I still have to find a place I could route it to. There's not a lot of space, right? I mean, there's clearance on this side, but I still have to route it across the board. Yeah, it's for an edge case. I know. Look, I might not even do it, but I wanted to see how hard would it be. Yeah, okay. I guess I could always stick a pad on the bottom. Yep. Yep, okay. Well, okay, that solves that one, kind of. Because, yeah, routing it was going to be a real pain. You can add the header like ground and EN on top left. And you can add the header like ground and EN on the top left. So what do you mean ground? So I'm confused, Pratik. You can add the header. Where do I put EN? I've got no room to stick EN. That's the problem. I can't change these pins. The pins have to stay to keep it TinyPICO compatible. Well, okay, so let's talk about what else I can break out. So there's no other I/O on the board, except for, I guess, I/O2 I could break out. I could break out I/O2. But the only other I/O on the Pico D4 that I haven't broken out, they're all input-only pins. And I've always kind of thought to myself, wow, like, is it worth breaking out a pin that's input-only? I mean, how many people are... I guess it's an extra pin. If they aren't using the JST connector, you could place the pad there. Like, I can't place the pad where the JST connector is, because I don't know if they're using one or not, right? Is a pull-up necessary on the EN pin for the LDO? Not if it's just... If I don't want to make it switchable. But if I want to make it switchable, absolutely. There has to be... If they're going to pull it down, there's got to be a resistor on there. Sure. Like, it's got to either be pulled up with a resistor or pulled down with a resistor. If it doesn't need... If I'm not going to have it switchable, like my TinyPICO currently is, then there's no resistor. It's just I just connect V-bus to the enable. Yes, the input-only pins are great for the ADC input. Unfortunately, the ADCs on the ESP32 are pretty average. And also for user interaction, right? You could use it for a button, you could use it... Sure. But the question is it worth me making the board bigger for? Like, substantially bigger? Like, is it worth me making it long enough to add one more pin just to get one more input-only pin? Or maybe I can put I/O2, I guess. No, I can't put I/O2 because I'm using it for the APA. So you got to remember I'm using I/O2, I/O12, and I/O13 for the APA. Which kind of sucks, but they have to be I/O, right? Well, they've got to be outputs at least. There's no such thing as an output-only pin with the ESP32. You can get input-only, but not output-only. So Pratik says, no, it's not worth it. Well then, okay, so what else can I do to this board to make it more plus? I feel like it just needs... Well, I don't know. I don't even know if it needs anything more. Yeah, like it's... I'm not... I just feel like they're too close. I don't think so, but a pad underneath... Yeah, I'll put a pad underneath. I think that's okay. That's a pretty good place for it. My idea for a project was to create a USB device which emulate pen drive and which allow to store data to SD card and later create copy of recorded data via Wi-Fi to some STP. Okay. I believe Simon, is that how you pronounce it? Hi to everyone, by the way, that's joined that I haven't said hi to yet. Battery protection IC. No, there's no room for any more ICs on the board. Yeah, I'm not looking potentially at adding more components on there. I don't know where I'd put it. Well, there's already battery protection. Like, what protection are you talking about? There's already well, not really overcharge. There's undercharge in the charge IC already. Sorry, now that fizzy drink's making me burp. There's already undercharge on the IC. Was it under or over? Could be overcharge. I think it's overcharge on the IC, on the charge IC. To make it plus, think of adding SRAM. It's already got RAM on the bottom, so well, you can't do SRAM. You can't add more SRAM, but I can. But I've got PSRAM on here. It's got 4 meg PSRAM. It's got as much as the ESP32 can address, but the TinyPICO's already got that. So yeah, that's not a plus thing. That's already there. That was the whole point of the TinyPICO, that it's got extra RAM. Isn't your pin 9 EN hooked up to reset? Pin 9 EN. What? What pin 9? What are we talking about? Add ESD protection. ESD doesn't exist. What pin 9 are we talking about? Pin 9 EN. Hooked up to reset. Capacitive touch pad in the middle of the TinyPICO, but it's on the bottom. I don't really have a place to stick a decent enough pad size on the back of the board. It's pretty packed. Not packed in terms of components on top, but packed in terms of no ratable space. But what would a pad on the bottom help you with when it's a board that plugs in this way? Which enable pin? I'm talking about the EN on the LDO. So my TinyPICO, the normal TinyPICO, let me just go back to here, doesn't have this pull-up. It's just EN and the V-bus in are connected, right? So it's always on. That's the EN pin I'm talking about. The ability to shut down the LDO, which basically shuts down everything, right? Even if the battery was connected to the board, the battery would be powering nothing because the LDO would be turned off. There'd be a tiny little bit of current, but not much. Add more components on the bottom. No, I don't want to build more stuff on the bottom and make the board harder to build. And once again, there's no room on the bottom. Let's go back to this picture. Where am I going to put... Firstly, what passives would I put on the bottom and where? I can't put stuff here. That's where the antenna is, right? Okay, I've got to be really careful about this spot. And where do I have space? You've got to remember how small this board is, guys. You can see how small the board is. Where do you think there's any room here to stick stuff? It is 4 layers already. You mean move to 6 layers? That's not going to help me because I'm out of via space. Next thing you can do with EN is just pull down from another MCU to save power. That's right. So it was a request that other people had. I can fix that with a pad on the bottom. That's fine. Unfortunately, what it also means though is there's another resistor on the board being pulled up, which means it's just a bit more power, right? A little bit more juice being sucked by the board. Going through the early vid, can you move the RAM onto one side of the board? No, it doesn't fit on... No, there's no room on the top for the RAM. Absolutely not. If there was, I'd be the happiest guy in the world. No, there is not. So the reason my new Nano is so big, and it's not this small, is because it's single-sided. Yeah, look at the side of the RAM. There's no place for that on the top of the board. And there's no way I'd be able to route to it. It needs to be close. It's RAM, right? I need to keep the traces as small as possible. I can't keep hopping through the board layers with it. Yes, it's already 4. I'm talking like going 2-layer board to 4-layer board doesn't make a board more plus. I'm talking about in terms of functionality, right? I can't take away functionality or features. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me in my head. Maybe it's just the whole... I mean, there's quite a bit that's different. You know, again, the reverse USB protection. There's a reset button on there. Jury's out whether it's easy to push or not. It's less fragile antenna. It's got 3 extra pins broken out. Technically with the EN with the pad on the bottom. That's I guess a fair bit of stuff. I don't know if you booted that reset button, maybe. Maybe what? The RAM cannot fit there. The RAM cannot fit there. I can't stick the RAM on top of the header pins and touching the antenna. I need clearance. Yeah, no. There's no place the RAM can go on top unless I make the board bigger. Current that pull-up resistor when N is grounded will probably be higher than crescent current of the whole board. What's the point? No, it won't be higher. Hey, Chuz666, it won't be higher than the whole board. I mean, it's 100k. It depends what voltage the battery's on, I guess, and if it's on USB, who cares? But if it's off battery, then you got to remember that so you're talking about 10 to 20 microamps for the ESP32 it's in deep sleep, about 12 microamps for the LDO, so let's call that 30 microamps. Basically everything on the 3.3 volt side is gone, right? So there's other pull-ups on here that wouldn't be on anymore because there's no power going to them. So it'll probably save, like there'll be no pull-up on the reset line, there'll be no pull-up on the RAM, there'll be no pull-up on, actually there's no pull-up on the RAM anymore, there'll be no pull-up on the reset, right? So one extra pull down, but I'm saving all the other pull-ups, like, you know what I mean? Like yeah. I think it'd be a net win for sure. B, there is an ESP32. No, I don't want to do BGA ESP32. No, thank you. That's only while the button is being pressed anyway. So what was that for, John? Sorry? You're talking about the reset button? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I keep feeling like plus what? I don't know. I feel like maybe extra pins. I don't know. There's no real need for it to be the same size. Like it can be a little bit longer. You know what I mean? Like it'll still be compatible with everything that it goes into. No, BGAs are not fun when you're trying to do manufacturing yourself. Current through the pull-up only matters when EN is active. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Right. So when EN is not active, there might be a cost on having that pulled low, but I'm saving all the costs of the other ones that aren't being touched anymore. So I think that'd be a net win in terms of power. Race car red, that'll make it plus. I don't think I want to make it red. Red spark fun. Blue's Adafruit. Yeah, black's Wemos. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so we have a lot of new faces here. So what I'll show just quickly then. So I've got my Nano on the way and I've got the S2 board. I'll show you just quickly both again. Couldn't you route it on the 3.3 volt layer along the split fill and up the side of the board? Yeah, I could. Yes, I could. So what Adam's talking about, let me just quickly go back to here. Adam's talking about my power planes are split into two sections. So if I go to here, close that. I'll do a fill, so you'll see. So that's my internal power plane on layer 3. So this whole section here is 5 volts. And this whole section here is 3.3 volts. Right? They're isolated, two different power planes. So what Adam's talking about is maybe making that gap a bit wider, sticking a wire here and running the trace at least part of the way down here to get it around. And I could possibly do that. I could even lose some of this 3.3 here and get it around, I guess. Split this right at the LDO. Yeah, it is right at the LDO-ish. I could definitely cut into this here and do that. Sure. But I still have to get it all the way down here. And is it worth making the board bigger and adding an extra pin just for an EN, I guess? Hey, Agim. An impromptu stream. Yes. Haven't done one of these for a long time. So, and this is just me avoiding cleaning hundreds of TinyPICOs. If you use 100k, that's about 30 to 50 microamps. You have to make it at least that weak to break even. Right, so what am I saving then by not having other pull-ups and not having my ESP on which is 20 microamps maybe, and not having the LDO. Like we're already at 30 microamps just for the LDO and the ESP32, not including all the other pull-ups that are on the board. Right? So I think there'll be a net win, Chaz666. How much would that win be? I don't know. Until I build one, I wouldn't know, right? More is better. Look at my stupid mistake. Yeah, more isn't always better, not if it makes it harder, which is why I'm not going BGAs, because I need to be able to manufacture these things. Okay, yeah, I could do that. Okay, let's look at... So my Nano. For those that haven't seen it. So, yeah, I'll save that. Sure. So this is my Nano. That's the bottom. I think adding extra pin for Ian is not worth it. But a pad at the bottom. Yeah, I'll definitely put a pad at the bottom. Now that I've got the resistor in there, I'd put a pad on the bottom for those who want to use it. Oh, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I'll keep thinking about it. So this is my Nano. Come on, turn on. So it's small in the TinyPICO. It's 27.3 by 14.61. And it is all castellated edges, but it's got everything except for the APA. It's got everything that TinyPICO's got. So it's got onboard serial. Fail to attend next. That's okay, mate. Helmet. I was there. Shame I didn't get to run into you, but I had Adam with me, which is good, and we met up with another guy called Paul Kelly. That was great. So I wasn't all by myself, but it would have been nice to meet up for sure. So I made this for me. Is it something I'm going to ship? Maybe. I don't know. But I wanted a board that... I wanted like a module, I guess, that I could stick on my projects and my boards that I didn't have to keep redesigning and rebuilding all the time. Like a Room 32, for instance. But a Room 32 doesn't give me what I want. You know, I want... Like, this has got the extra RAM. It's single-sided. It's all on top. It's got the extra RAM. It's got all the charge stuff. It's got all the USB... It's a complete microcontroller. The only thing you need to attach to this is a USB connector, right? So over on the front here, there's D plus and D minus, 5 volt and ground, obviously 3 volts and reset. All you need to do, I mean, you can program it via an external program if you want to, but I don't want to. For me, I want to be able to put this on a board for a project and then put any USB I want, micro B, USB-C, doesn't matter. And all I need to do is route the USB to this. So it's got more pins broken out than, as you can see, than the TinyPICO. It's got 2, 4, 12, 13, 14, 15, like, cause there's no APA on there. So I'm primarily making this for me. And we'll see how good it is to use. I'm already thinking I want to make it smaller though. Maybe a little bit smaller. And the reason I want to make it smaller is, I'll show you. So I made this add-on board for it. It's really just a tester, but it's also an add-on board that people can... I'm saying people, but who knows who those people are. I've sent you my BGA's fun on Twitter. Oh, here we go. So this is it's my expander adapter board. So it's really just a test case for the Nano. So the Nano connects on there. It's got the JST connector. It's got all the pins broken out. It's breadboard friendly. It's got a reset button and IO0 button, and it's got USB-C on it. The thing with this though is that because of the size of the module and the pads needed, I think I can get the pads a bit smaller, but I won't know until I try it. This board's actually bigger than the TinyPICO, which obviously it needs to be, right? To fit the header pins on as well. But it'd be nice if I could get it a bit... I like to get it a bit narrower. Like the 25.4. It'd be nice if I could get it one row less. But I don't think it's overly important, because it's not designed to be the smallest board ever. It's designed to be a board that I can plug onto a project. Like my next Wi-Fi clock that I'm currently designing, I don't want to have to assemble all the electronics on the back. I want to be able to just take my Nano and solder it on. Take an existing board, like it's got everything I want on it. I can see BitLooney making a 20-player game out of it. I don't think he's got enough I/O for that, does he? For a 20, maybe with the I/O expander he can. The pitch. So this is it's not a pitch. It's a weird pitch. It's 0.075. I didn't standardize on anything because I don't need to. I didn't want to make 0.05 inch or 1.27 mil pads because they're just small for people. They're too small, I think, for people to solder. Personally, but I still needed to keep them. So the actual pins themselves on the Nano. Let me just go back. These are normal size pins from normal headers. In terms of the size of the holes, the drills. So they're the same size that you'd normally solder on a TinyPICO in the headers, but they're closer together. So the FTDI cannot work. No, it's not designed... My Pogo, no, I don't want to do it. That's the whole point. I'm not interested in programming it with a Pogo board. This is not designed to connect an external programmer to. This is designed to be put on an existing board. Like a Room 32. Think of... you build it, you make a design... a project, and you don't want to mess around with putting your own chip and crystal and blah blah blah. You grab a Room 32 and you stick the Room 32 on, right? It's the same as that, but I want all the extra stuff. I don't want to stick a Room 32 on it, then have to stick USB on there, and then have to stick all the passives that go with the USB on there, and then have to stick all the charge circuitry on there, and all the, you know what I mean? Like I want a ready-made board that I can just stick on my projects. And I've got stacks of projects, like my Reflow Master, for instance. I've been looking at moving that over to ESP32. Like, why would I build my Reflow Master with individual components again and again and again? Why wouldn't I just plug one of these on? You know what I mean? Like one of these, a USB connector, some K-type probes, some max probes, 318, what is it? 31855s, whatever they are, can't remember, right? And that's it. A couple of switches connected to it and it's done, you know? You know what I mean? Like... all that circuitry I don't have to do myself again and again and again. Every time I build a Reflow Master, I'm re-adding all those components on again and again. It's frustrating. Even though my pick and place can do it, it's, you know what I mean? 31855, thank you. So the work for the match network for the antenna. That's right. Okay, leverage the whole thing. Like if I was going to put the Pico D4 on my Reflow Master by itself with all the components, I'd have to go and get the network matched again for it, because it's a completely different thing, right? I mean, sure, I have to be careful where I place this. I don't want to put components near the antenna, but if it's already matched for this, it's not going to alter much sticking it on another board. Just like when you get a Room 32 that's kind of matched and you stick it on your board, if you're smart, it won't affect the antenna too much. If you're not smart, it'll dramatically affect the antenna. That's right, it's worked great for the ESP12, the 12E, 12F, and and the Room 32 and the Rover 32. The problem with all of those is they still need all the other accompanying stuff, right? The stuff that I'm just like, how many boards have I designed that's got a CP2194 on it, you know? And the passives that go with it, and the power LED, and the charge IC, and the LDO, like, you know what I mean? I've done that 100 times. I don't want to do it anymore. Well, I'll do it on a project that really needs it. Heard about SAMD21? Yeah, I've built lots of stuff with SAMD21. I love SAMD21s. I prefer ESP32s because they've got Bluetooth Wi-Fi. Yeah, like my Reflow Master's using SAMD21s. SAMD21, it's a bit slow. Like, well, I mean, okay, it's not 8 megahertz like an Uno, but you know what I mean? It's 48 megahertz. It doesn't have enough RAM. Not for the type of stuff I want to be doing. You know, yeah. How do I match the antenna? I pay to get it matched professionally. I don't have a VNA, and even if I went and spent $10,000 on one, I don't have the mathematics and the skills to match it myself. Not properly. Could I hack through it eventually? Maybe. But yeah, it's not worth my time. I'd love to. If I had 10 grand spare, I probably would buy myself a VNA. I mean, really spare, right? And who really has 10 grand spare? I'd buy myself a VNA, and I'd learn how to use it, how to match my networks to myself. But I'm not building enough to do it. Just doesn't justify it. Hey, Dave Darko. Yeah, SAMD51's, again, great chip. Awesome chip. Still doesn't have enough memory. Not even close compared to the ESP32. It's still only 160 megahertz, not even close to the performance of the ESP32, and single core. It's got hardware floating point. It's a great chip, don't get me wrong, but it's still got no Wi-Fi. Like, it's got no Bluetooth. It's got no connectivity unless you add other stuff to it, which is totally fine. But 90% of the projects I'm making at the moment, Wi-Fi revolve around Wi-Fi. So it's a no-brainer to use the ESP32. And the SAMD51 is not cheap either. Grow a beard and you'll be halfway to getting those skills. Really? It's all about the beard. Out of curiosity, how much does it cost to get it matched? I'm getting it really cheap. It's costing me about 250 Australian dollars per board. But plus, it cost me about $90 to get the boards to them, and about $90 to get them back to me. Plus the cost of the boards that I lose when I send them. Well, they don't have to come back to me, depending on what I want back. So all up, so for the 3 boards, so for the Plus, I'm going to get done the Nano and the Pro S2, it'll cost me about $1,000. To do them in Australia would cost me about $1,500 per board, minimum. So yeah, it's definitely much cheaper. I've got a guy in China that does them. Has anyone in the chat used an AD9833 module with a female SMA port, an MC with an ESP32? I have not, so no, that's not me. Yeah, Sean's boards are great, and I love ARM, and I love the SAMD products. Like, I do. Like, I've got trays of SAMD products. Like, honestly, of chips. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really, really do. But yeah, you just can't get how far ahead the ESP, the Espressive stuff is, just in terms of, like, there's no STM chip on the market, no matter how much you want to pay for the chip, that ships with the same amount of memory as an ESP32. Bottom line, you know what I mean? And look at the price then. Look at the price of an M7 or an H7. Like, they're, we're not talking about, $2-3 for a chip. We're talking $9-10 for a chip. Anyway, yeah, like, ESPs, they're dirt cheap. I mean, is the ecosystem as good? No. Is the IDF's really getting there, but is it as good and stable? No, it's not. Are the ADCs inside the ESP32 a real problem? That they're just not great, right? That's something that's being worked on for the S2 and future products. There are definitely some things that aren't great about the ESP32. Their deep sleep isn't anywhere near as good as what the SAMDs can do. The amount of heat that they generate, comparatively, like how hot they run. But there are other stuff that's just amazing, like the amount of flash they come with and that they can support. I mean, the new S2 chip can support 128 megabytes of flash on a microcontroller, right? That's just nuts. And was it 32 gigabytes? 32 megabytes of RAM? Anyway, ESP32 ADC 920 framework is broken, I guess. It's not broken, it's just, they're just terrible. They're just really bad ADCs. Just the way it's configured. But that's being improved. I love SAMD 2951 until I looked into making custom boards, and the ESP32 is just too good. Yeah, it's in terms of speed and performance, you can't beat the ESP32. Not as much I/O as the SAMD 51, but then the S2's got stacks more I/O. Why so much hate? It isn't broken, just needs love and tender care. Yeah, but it's also just, they're unstable. They need a long time to stabilize when you're trying to read data, and which is often a problem when you want to wake up the ESP32, you want to take some readings and put it back to sleep, and you can't, because the readings you're taking on your ADCs might be completely out. Like, it needs to settle and stabilize. Plus the whole can't use one of the ADCs with the Wi-Fi is connected, which you lose half your pins. So, and the 0 to 1 volt thing by default for full resolution, that's just ridiculous. In a world where everything's 3.3 volts, forget about 5 volts. Like, when the world where everything's 3.3 volts, your I/O is 3.3 volts, your 90% of the peripherals you're connecting to your device are 3.3 volts. There is no reason in the world why your ADC isn't 3.3 volts as default with full lost the word, with full resolution. You know what I mean? There's just no point. IDF is giving love to ADC and V4 IDF. And filters required. Yeah, they're working on it. Some things they can fix in software. Some things require a change in silicon. They know about it. They're aware of it, and it's something that'll get addressed, and they'll get there. I mean, it's supposed to become a long way in a very short period of time, right? I'll give you the full range nonsense. Okay, I'll give you what? Oh, you'll give me the full range nonsense. Yes, like I know why they've done it, but I feel like it was just a silly thing to do. Yeah, it makes the ADCs really useless. Like, I've got a voltage divider on my TinyPICO that draws current when it shouldn't, just so I can read the battery voltage, because the ADC has to have, by default, unless you actually change it in your code, it's 0 to 1, and I need to be able to read the battery voltage without telling people they need to go and actually program. They need a flash firmware on the chip to change it just so they can read the battery voltage, right? And the fact is that the default is 1, so therefore a lot of code is written for 0 to 1, or is it 1.1, 1.15, whatever it is. And so the second you ship a board that by default is at 3.3 with a low resolution, all the other peripherals that are and software that's expecting it to be at 1 doesn't work anymore, right? Like, it shouldn't be changeable. It should be 0 to 3.3 volts, not changeable, full resolution, and be compatible with everything. But there you go. But hey, it's great for unamplified mics. You think the EN pin is an edge use case? I'd say unamplified mics would be an edge use case. Anyway, so if the EN's going on the bottom, okay, let's look at the S2. Come on, let's do my S2. So they're coming as well. I'm excited for the S2, even though I can't build one. Well, so I can build my S2, but what I can't do is use USB on it, and that sucks. So this is my S2 board, and it's coming in red, folks. I did red. So there you go. You'll all get to see red with Enig soon. Putting 80 on the TinyPICO Plus. There's no room. Again, like, J-Man, look at that's the size. Whoops, that's the size. No, that's the size of the ADS. What is it? 11. No, that's the 101.5. Yeah. That plus 4 passives. That plus 4 passives. Where am I going to put that on the TinyPICO Plus without making the board considerably bigger? It will not fit here at all. And I then need to break those pins out, right? So I'd need to make... How long would the board be? This long? You know what I mean? But I've got them on my breakout board. That's why I've got that on here. So I've got 4 12-bit ADCs on here. I think putting the... And the cost as well, right? They're not cheap chips, and so it would dramatically add to the cost of the board. Eagle View was helpful as the vias stand out a lot more. What do you need to see? What? This view? What do you need to see the vias for? What's the vias got to do with anything? What, you want to see the routing? Oops. Didn't switch. You want to see the routing? You don't want to see the routing. Let me tell you, that took a lot to route. This was days. This was days of rerouting and pain. Oh, right. Showing this. Okay, yes. Sorry. In Eagle, yeah. There's no room. There's no room to stick anything else like that. Leave these AD DNA type devices on extra shield boards. Yeah. Again, it's a thing that not everyone needs. So adding $3-4 to the cost of the board and making the board much bigger just to add some ADC pins that maybe 85% of the people aren't going to use is, again, it's not worth it. That's what a shield's for. But how pretty does that look? Look at that. How nice did I get that? I'm very proud of myself. That's not what the first version looked like. But what I do when I'm building a board is I get it routed the first time. I won't route badly, as in I'm not gonna jump through layer to get one trace to another trace. But what I will do is route it ugly, not badly but ugly, and make sure that I can reach every single pin. And then once I've got it fully routed, no errors, I then go back and completely redo it and clean it up. And that's what I did here. So I'm really proud of that. I've also got a much fancier power system now. So that's my power system. Because my JST is at the back of the board now, but my VBAT pin is at the front because I want to keep it pin compatible. I've now, rather than doing a big trace, I've done this. And what I've also got, so for those that, so does everyone know how I'm talking about solder mask colors from just, did you get a full range of magnifier colors? No, I've only got 4 colors, I think. I was looking for them the other day. I've only got 4 colors. High risk AD needs careful noise management. Best not coupled. Yeah, I can't put it near the RF. You're right, Helmet. Like it's yeah. There's really no room for it. Thanks, John. Your boards are beautiful too, mate. Okay, so does everyone know what the S2 is? Has everyone seen the S2? God, I said to you guys I'm going to stream for an hour, and it's been a little bit longer. Hey, DIY in the ghetto. Okay, I'll quickly explain what some of the cool features are on the S2, because it's really cool. Okay, so it's got an ESP32 S2 on it. It's got 16 megabytes of flash. It's got 8 megabytes of PS RAM. It's got your usual LDO, charge, everything else that the TinyPICO's got. Seems like a one-man army. I am a one-man army, and that's my problem. I need more hands and more time. Anyway, it's got USB-C, but just USB 2.0, right? And it's got JST on the top, but it's a microblade JST, not the full-size JST, because there's no room for it. It's a single-sided board. There's no way I'm making a double-sided board. It's got the Fractus antenna, and what I've also got on here, it's not going to be populated, but those that want to do it, there is a BGA pads for a MEMS 32K oscillator that can go there. It's not going to be populated because they're expensive. No camera port. Make a shield for the camera port. All the pins are broken out. So for those that want to pay $5-6 and put a BGA part on there, they can. Sounds like an excuse to get more robots. Well, I might be looking at a new pick and place machine, but that's for another thing. But what I've got on here though, and it's not like unique, right? I'm not the first person to do it, but very few people have done it, and I've done it a bit differently to other people. Like the Pipod D has this, but not the same way as I've got it. This has got 2 LDOs. It's got 2 700 milliamp 3.3 LDOs. So the first one, just like on the TinyPICO, runs the PS RAM, the flash, and the the S2 chip, all the usual 3.3 volts. The second one is only for external peripherals, so it controls the APA 102, the power for the APA 102. Let me go to the back. But what it also does is, so I've got some, I don't know how this is going to turn out because of all the wires. We'll see if it's readable when I get it back. So I've got 2 pins on here called 3v3 out, and they're only 3.3 volt output pins. You can't power it from here. It's got a Schottky blocking power coming in. So you effectively get about 3.1 something volts out of this, right? Or 3.2. We'll talk about another pick and place later. Not now. Maybe another stream. Green. Sorry. So what this does is, when the board is powered up, when the S2 is awake, you can use IO21 to enable and disable the LDO. So it's just controlling the enable pin, right? But when the S2 goes to sleep, it doesn't matter what 21 is doing. It shuts down power to your 3.3 volts out. So if you have a OLED screen connected to it and I don't know, what other things you've got onto it, an I2C temperature sensor, whatever you've got, and they're being powered from the 3.3 volt out, you get the full 700 milliamps from the LDO dedicated just for the 3.3 volt out. But if you put the S2 to sleep, it automatically shuts that power down for you. You don't have to remember to shut it down, right? So the deep sleep is the master, and then if it's asleep, it doesn't matter what IO21 does. But if it's awake, you can control the power on and off from IO21. So that allows you to disconnect power to your peripherals really easily. Like if you're using something like this in a low power situation, but you've got a temperature sensor and you've got a couple of other things you're using, if you wire them to the 3.3 volts, you can guarantee to shut power down to them when you put the ESP32 to sleep, which I think is a really cool feature. As I said, it's not brand new, it's not unique, but I've not seen a board that does it that's controlled by the 2 pins, right? That automatically shuts it down with the deep sleep. If someone knows a board that can do that, great. I'll happily say they were the first. But I've never seen one. User controllable EN, yes, but not deep sleep override, if that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this board. But of course the problem is I can build one. I've got silicon here, but the silicon's got it doesn't have any of the USB support. So of course I've got RxTX IO0 broken out and obviously reset. So I can program it through an external programmer, no problem. But until the release silicon, I can't test the USB side of this. IO21, an RTC pin that would give people the option to keep it on. It doesn't matter if IO21 is an RTC pin or not, because you can set it high or low no matter what you do. If the ESP32 goes into deep sleep, it'll shut down that power. It overrides whatever the state of IO21 is. Right? A use case where you've got the ESP32 in deep sleep or a light sleep, but with the RTC running, and you want to actually output data or read data from a sensor. I know that's a really unique. Sorry, I shouldn't say it's a unique case. I think that's a very specialized case, and if you're doing that, you'd be doing some custom hardware for that, I think. But yes, IO21 is an RTC pin, but it doesn't matter. You can set it high and low as much as you want, but if the ESP32 is in deep sleep, it'll shut down the power. So, pin assignments is interesting. This is fully compatible with the PICO, TinyPICO. But the pin numbering on the S2 is completely changed. Is it the software USB software issue with the S2? Well, there's just no... There's an issue in the silicon with the current beta silicon, which prevents them from implementing the USB stack. It's on chip. It's a software solution, but it's on chip. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to add the USB stack. It's there for you if you want to use it. You can also decide not to use it if you want to. If the Schottky V drop is an issue, just compensate the regulator by ground side extra Schottky V to lift as output by equivalent. Sure. I mean, it's 0.2 is going to drop. I mean, I can't think of any peripherals that are 3.3 pin peripheral, 3.3 volt peripherals that can't run at 3.x up. You know what I mean? We're talking about a 0.2 drop across the Schottky. It's pretty good. It's the same Schottky that I was talking about on my stream the other day. Hey, 3D Gusner. Yeah, so the actual pin numbering on the S2 is totally different. It's actually way better. They've started at 0 and they go all the way up sequentially now. What's interesting is, just like with the regular ESP32s, it's got a GPIO matrix, so any pin can be anything, right? But because there's no Arduino support yet, they've not even started writing Arduino support as far as I'm aware, right? They don't even have full IDF support yet. That's still being worked on. So what they don't have, and this is going to be tricky, is they don't have what are the default pins in Arduino land. It's like when you load up an ESP32 board definition in Arduino, the default for I2C is 21 and 22, right? They're the default pins, right? If you have some software, like a Adafruit driver that says initialize this for hardware I2C, it looks at the board manager and it knows what the I2C pins are, 21, 22, right? They don't know what they're going to be on the S2. So I picked what I think are the best ones, and I've let them know what they are. And I said, these are the pins I'm using. and I've already had someone look at them and go, yeah, they actually make sense. I'm hoping they'll choose the pins I used, so I don't have to reroute it, right? Because that'd be a pain. But if I have chosen the pins correctly, these are actually the same ones. They're MOSI, MISO, clock, CS or SS, that is SCL, SDA, then obviously 13 and 12 are not. So they're compatible, right? All here. Well, 13 and 12, it doesn't matter because on the TinyPICO it's what, 32, 33, they don't do anything. And then over here, you've got the battery, ground, 5 volt, 3.3 volts. These pins are whatever, but you've got DACs here. So on the Pico, TinyPICO, that's 25, 26, which is DAC 1, DAC 2. Here I've got DAC 1, DAC 2. It should be pin compatible. Fingers crossed. What do you think of the trigger ESP? Something you would like to add to ESP S2? The trigger ESP. You talking about the trig board? I don't know what trigger ESP is. If you're talking about the trig board, the trig board's a great board. Yeah, it's a fantastic board. It's a specific use case though. Like I don't know. I mean, this is still just a multi-purpose, something for everyone board, right? The trig board I think is a very, it's fantastic at what it does, but it's a very specific use case. Very versatile for its use case, without a doubt. But, you know, you wouldn't be putting something this big. I mean, this is, you know, obviously it's the same width as a TinyPICO, it's longer. You wouldn't be putting something like this in a project where you want to stick a trig board. I mean, the trig board's tiny, right? Yeah, and I can't get this any smaller. One day when they bring out a SIP, eventually, like they did with the Pico D4, and they've got the flash inside, I can obviously save some space. And the crystal and passives and everything else inside. But right now, you know, I need space for the crystal, I need space for the flash, which isn't big, isn't small, I should say. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm excited about this. I'm just hoping that I don't have any issues with the pads on the USB. Because they're pretty close. There's not going to be any solder mask between them. And JLC PCB were complaining about my stencil for it. But I said to them, make it anyway. I'm excited for this project to see if it works. So I can build one, and I can even put a USB on here, at least to power it once it's flashed. But if I want to flash it, I need to use an external programmer right now. But that'll still allow me to test everything, but it has to be in IDF land. And I need to set up CMake, because it now uses CMake instead of just make. GNU Make, it's now CMake. So it's a different compiler toolchain. I don't even know if they can both coexist on the same machine. The V-drop may be significant at regulator low tolerance end. It might be, but that's really no different to any other, you know, like they're likely to get closer to the low tolerance, as in max capacity or too low, just using the standard LDO if they're running a lot of peripherals. You know what I mean? Like at some point they need to be responsible for how much they're trying to power off that 3.3 volt out pin. You know what I mean? Like at some point they should be finding a different power source or something. Yeah. How can you save space with all the pinouts? I can't save space. Well, I could have had less pins broken out, but the whole point of this chip is it's got more I/O. I mean, I've actually used up all the I/O. There's nothing else I could break out that is useful to anyone. Does that make sense? Could leave some circuits not happy, far below 3 volt unstable. Right, but if you're getting below 3 volts, they can coexist? Okay, awesome. Good to know. Thank you. Like, if you're getting below 3 volts, well, you got a problem anyway. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Does that make sense, Helmet? Like, I feel like at some point, the person that's just plugging peripheral after peripheral after peripheral in on this thing and trying to drive all this stuff, like, they need to be responsible for how much current they're drawing. If 0.2 volts is going to make a difference to them, then they're doing something silly to start with, I believe. But I can't control what people do, right? Yeah, the user has to be aware of what they're doing, or not. Right? If they're not, then there's nothing I can do that's going to save them. I can't save everyone. Right? I can try, but I can't save everyone. Okay, wow, it's 6 o'clock, and this has gone for an hour longer than I expected it to. So I got no eagle work done, which is what I was going to do. But thank you all, because you talked me out of increasing the length, and I will put a pad on the bottom instead. I think that's... Why is my camera going out of focus? I think that's probably a better idea. A much better idea. So thank you for that. Focus? Yes, no? Whoa. Anyway. You know what normal voltage is low? Well, at least let the user know that normal voltage is low. But is it low? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I check LDOs on boards all the time, and you know, the 3.3 volt regulators, and this one shows 3.21, and this one shows 3.29, and this one shows 3.31. I mean, what's standard of a 3.3 volt regulator that people would know what's good or bad? I'll send you an email what you can do with the E pin. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, like I feel like I wouldn't even know. Like even with 5 volts with USB now. I mean, you know, I plug my Mac in and I read it, and it's 5.2 volts, and I plug my PC in and I read it, it's 5.1 volts, and I plug 5 volts directly from the power point through this particular wall thing, you know, adapter, and it's 5.05 volts, and I plug this other one in, it's 5.25 volts. You know what I mean? Like, there seems to be no standard anymore on a, you know, and 3.3 volts seems like this ideal now, but nothing's ever 3.3 volts. Instantly, you've labelled it 3VO. Well, yeah, that's why it says 3 volt out on the back of the board, because I can't fit out on the front of the board. But yes, maybe they'll expect it to be 3.3. 3.3 plus or minus 10%? Really? No, I see much bigger swings than 10%. Honestly. But anyway, can you do another 10 minutes? Got to wash up. No, I'm not doing another 10 minutes. 6 o'clock, I've got to go. Hopefully I'm not going to be in trouble. Oh well. Yeah, if it's labeled through, they expect 3 volt, then they need more help than we can provide. But it's not 3V0 because it's 3.0 volts. Anyway, I might have to think about relabeling that. We'll see how we go. It'll be marked very clearly on the card that comes with the board, right? If they don't read it, well, all I can do is ask people to read. That's all I can do. Anyway, thanks for joining, everyone. I got way more people than I thought I was going to get. I really appreciate it. And everyone, I hope you have a fantastic Friday if it's the start of your day. And if it's the end of your day, yay, have a great weekend. Nobody reads it. The cards, well, I'm going to make it nice, big, graphical. I know, no one reads, but I just have to do my own. Like, I got to do the best I can and hope that, you know, if someone does something unexpected and they complain to me, I'll say, did you look at the card? No, I didn't read the card. Well, sorry, I provided you a card. What can I do? If you're in trouble, I'm going to blame Corinne6977. Anyway, have a fantastic weekend, folks. I will catch you all next week with some exciting things to show when my new boards arrive. Bye, everyone. Have fun at work, James. Sorry, mate. Oh, no. Where's my close button? Again. There it is. Okay. Bye, everyone.